In the world of fame and chaos, few families have captured the public's attention like the Osbournes. When MTV aired The Osbournes in 2002, it wasn't just another reality show, it was a cultural reset. Viewers were glued to their screens, watching the unfiltered daily lives of rock legend Ozzy Osbourne, his fiery and business-savvy wife Sharon, and their two children, Kelly and Jack. Their raw, outrageous dynamic was both hilarious and shocking, cementing the family as reality TV royalty. But even in the midst of all the attention, fans noticed something, or rather, someone, was missing. The Osbournes actually had a third child, their eldest daughter, Aimee. And she was nowhere to be seen. Aimee Osbourne was 16 when the show premiered, and unlike her siblings, she had no interest in putting her life on display for millions to watch. She made the bold decision to step away from the cameras entirely, even if it meant leaving her family's home. Aimee moved out before the show began filming, choosing solitude and privacy over public recognition. While many might assume this created tension, Aimee made it clear in a 2002 interview with Barbara Walters that she loved her family deeply, but the idea of being filmed 24/7 was a complete invasion of her identity. Her desire for a quiet, creative life clashed with the spotlight her family welcomed. Her mother, Sharon Osbourne, has often expressed how heartbreaking it was to watch her daughter walk away from the family just as their fame was exploding. On a podcast in 2024, Sharon spoke candidly about how she felt she lost precious years with Aimee. Sharon described her daughter as incredibly strong-willed and independent, even from a young age. It was clear Aimee was always the old soul of the family, someone who needed control and peace in a household that thrived on chaos and unpredictability. Over the years, that gap between Aimee and the rest of the family only widened. While Jack and Kelly became household names in their own right, embracing the fame, starring in other TV ventures, and diving into entertainment, Aimee quietly carved out a life for herself. She pursued a music career under the name ARO, releasing dark, moody, alternative tracks that stood in stark contrast to her family's bright media presence. Still, even as she built her music career, Aimee avoided red carpets, family podcasts, and group interviews. Her absence became as notable as her family's presence. Jack Osbourne later confirmed the distance between the siblings wasn't just physical. On a recent podcast appearance, he revealed bluntly, "We're not close at all." He didn't say it with anger, just resignation. "We don't really have much of a relationship," he admitted, and added that Aimee would probably say the same. For fans who grew up watching the rest of the family on TV, the revelation was sobering. The Osbournes appeared tight-knit, loud, but loyal. Yet, behind the scenes, not everything was as picture-perfect as it seemed. While Aimee Osbourne chose to walk away from the reality television circus that defined her family's fame, she didn't walk away from creativity or ambition. In fact, stepping out of the spotlight may have been the very thing that allowed her to grow into the artist she wanted to be. In interviews, Aimee has described herself as someone who has always been deeply introspective, someone who thinks before she speaks, and someone who processes life more quietly. The idea of cameras following her every move and people picking apart her words in tabloids felt suffocating. She wasn't just rejecting fame, she was protecting her peace. Even as a teenager, Aimee seemed to understand that once you let the world in, it's almost impossible to close the door again, but the decision wasn't without its consequences. Moving out at just 16 is a big deal for anyone, but for Aimee, it meant distancing herself not just from the cameras, but from her family. Over the years, she has admitted that while she loves her parents and siblings, they're simply very different people. In a 2020 interview with New York's Q104.3, Aimee talked about how chaotic the family home was, emotionally and energetically. She said it was hard to think, hard to grow, hard to be herself. For her mental health and creative spirit, she had no choice but to leave, and yet, despite the physical and emotional distance, she never spoke badly about her family. There was no dramatic fallout in the press, no shocking tell-all book, no YouTube rants or explosive interviews. Aimee simply slipped out of view and stayed there, becoming a sort of mysterious figure in the Osbourne family legacy. But every now and then, she re-emerges, usually when releasing music. Her sound is haunting and cinematic, drawing comparisons to artists like Lana Del Rey or Fiona Apple. Her lyrics are poetic and often seem to explore themes of identity, isolation, and inner strength, all things she clearly had to navigate in her unconventional upbringing. Interestingly, while Aimee remained reserved, her family continued to discuss her absence publicly, especially Sharon. In an emotional interview on the Talk UK, Sharon admitted she would always regret how the fame of the show created an emotional wedge between her and Aimee. She said they still talked and saw each other occasionally, but that it was difficult. Sharon even acknowledged that Aimee was probably the strongest one of all, because she had the courage to say no to something the rest of them couldn't resist. Meanwhile, Kelly Osbourne has offered a different take. In past interviews, she expressed frustration that Aimee was portrayed as somehow above the rest of them just because she chose not to be on TV. Kelly's words hinted at lingering resentment, perhaps not just over Aimee's decision to distance herself, but also because of how the public praised that decision as more noble or mature. The truth, however, is likely more complicated. This isn't a story of one person being right or wrong, it's a story of a family shaped by fame, and how one member refused to be consumed by it. As Aimee Osbourne quietly built a life on her own terms, her path became a striking contrast to the whirlwind of chaos and celebrity that often surrounded the rest of the Osbourne clan. While Ozzy continued to perform and grapple with serious health issues in public, and Sharon became a household name on TV panels and reality shows, Aimee was focused on music, privacy, and personal healing. She launched her musical project under the name ARO, using her initials instead of the family surname, a symbolic gesture that spoke volumes. With ARO, she was sending a message that she was her own person, not a shadow of her parents or a leftover from a famous reality show. Her songs, moody and deeply expressive, allowed her to process emotions that she never voiced in public. Her work wasn't designed to chase chart success or mainstream validation, it was meant to be felt. Despite her desire for a low-key life, Aimee couldn't completely avoid public curiosity. Her rare interviews always generated a buzz, and every time she released new music, people were eager to unpack the lyrics for any subtle references to her famous family. But Aimee remained composed, never indulging in drama or family gossip. Even when asked pointed questions about why she left home or why she never appeared on the Osbournes, she answered with thoughtfulness rather than bitterness. She made it clear that her decision was never about rejecting her family, it was about protecting herself. There's something deeply relatable about Aimee's story, especially for anyone who's ever felt like the odd one out in their family. She grew up in a household where loud personalities dominated the space, where chaos was normalized, and where fame became a kind of addiction. She could have followed that path. She could have cashed in on the name, scored endorsement deals, built a brand. But instead, she chose solitude over spotlight. That takes not just strength, but incredible self-awareness. In a world that constantly rewards oversharing and attention-seeking, Aimee's silence became her power, but silence doesn't mean disconnection. Over the years, Aimee has slowly repaired her relationships with her parents and siblings. She, and Sharon, in particular, have had moments of reconciliation, even attending events together now and then. Still, it's clear that boundaries remain in place. Aimee values her independence too much to ever fully rejoin the media frenzy that surrounds her family. In many ways, she has become the Osbourne family's quiet center, the calm eye of a storm that never really ends. Her story is also a powerful reminder of how fame can shape a family in unexpected ways. It can draw people together, but it can also push them apart. For Aimee, escaping the fame machine didn't mean losing her identity, it meant finally finding it. And in doing so, she's inspired a quiet admiration from fans who see her not as a recluse or outcast, but as someone brave enough to walk away from a world most people would kill to enter. In an age where vulnerability is currency and every ounce of celebrity is squeezed for public consumption, Aimee Osbourne remains a quiet anomaly. She never asked for the fame that came with her last name, and she certainly never exploited it. Yet her story is a compelling testament to the strength it takes to step away, not just from the public eye, but from the expectations of family, industry, and legacy. While Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne are entertainment giants and Jack and Kelly have their own followings, Aimee represents a different archetype altogether, the daughter who chose silence, reflection, and authenticity over spectacle. Her refusal to be boxed in by her family's image is not just rebellion, it's resilience. The kind of inner strength that's often invisible, but never insignificant. Her music, haunting and ethereal, provides rare glimpses into her inner world, acting as a window into the emotions she's too guarded to express otherwise. There's a melancholic beauty to her songs that speaks to a life shaped by both love and distance. Aimee doesn't perform for applause, she performs to release, to reflect, and to connect with a select audience that understands the quiet ache behind her words. In many ways, her art serves as her memoir, crafted one haunting melody at a time. It's not flashy or loud, but it's sincere. And for those who've followed her path, it's undeniably moving. Even as her family has gone through waves of controversy and transformation, Ozzy's health battles, Sharon's headline-grabbing TV moments, Kelly's candid discussions about addiction and motherhood, Aimee has remained steady in her commitment to live life her way. She's often overlooked in public discussions of the Osbournes, but those who know her story see her as the family's quiet soul, the one who resisted the gravitational pull of chaos. And perhaps that's what makes her journey so powerful. It's not that she rejected her family, she simply redefined what family meant to her. In recent years, Aimee has become more willing to share pieces of her world, but always on her own terms. When a fire tore through a Hollywood recording studio in 2022, nearly claiming her life, she didn't rush to the media for attention. She spoke about it once, briefly, describing the terror and the gratitude that followed, and then returned to her music. That near-death experience might have shaken others into chasing fame or clinging tighter to the past, but for Aimee, it reaffirmed what she already knew: life is fragile, privacy is precious, and peace is worth protecting. Today, Aimee Osbourne continues to walk the path she carved out for herself long ago. It's a quieter road, but one lined with integrity, purpose, and emotional truth. While the world may remember the Osbournes for their loud, outrageous moments on screen, there's a growing space for the soft, steady presence of the daughter, who chose a different story. One that's not filmed, not broadcast, but lived. And in that quiet resistance, Aimee Osbourne has found her own kind of power, perhaps the most enduring kind of all.